Industry, oh, yeah, season 2 dropping, and man, it's weird. We talked about Industry, I guess, just last year, right? Or
End of
maybe 2 years
2020.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those COVID shows where it's like, where was I, and how do I
Mhm.
know delineate time during this period? But uh, it feels like Industry is far away, and also like just came off the air at the same time. So to have it back, I was like, oh, this is great. I miss being with these characters. Um, and I thought episode 1 of season 2, the premiere, was just really great and set the stage for everything, and really is pulling all these characters in different directions. And I'm right back in. What about you?
Oh, totally. I was a huge fan of Industry season one, which really came out of nowhere as this gem from HBO and BBC. And what I think is most appealing about Industry, which continues from season one, is that it's really like atmospheric and absorbing show to be with. And I think the big part of that is just because Mickey Down and Conrad K, the creators, are coming from this finance world, and it's a show that, through its storytelling, is quite uncompromising. It doesn't take time to expositorily explain the jargon of the
Hmm.
finance and investment banking world. It's quite fast paced. It's quite high minded in that regard. But the vibe, the character dynamics, the character motivations, the feelings of the characters are so relatable and understandable that even if this very intricate world is only understandable to a niche audience, by design, most people don't understand the nuances of high finance. It's okay because the things that are in here, in terms of the stress and the toxicity of the workplace and the balancing of work and fun, the drugs, the sex, everything, like it's just a wonderful blend to be with. And I actually love that I don't really know this world because it feels like you're just going on a trip and learning more about it. I think Myala Harold, who is the plays Harper Stern, our lead protagonist, really stands out as the one kind of guiding us through this world, and going through her many ups and downs through season one was quite the trip. You know, um, the backstabbing nature of the show. I've seen a lot of people doing it. It's like Succession meets Euphoria. It's not quite as cutthroat as Succession, but not that far off, and
Yeah.
not as explicit as Euphoria, but not that far off. It makes some sense.
No, I think that comparison makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think what I was just most impressed by as we come back, and obviously as season 2 ends, there's a lot of drama and infighting among the core characters. Everybody's kind of off in their own directions, but everybody's storyline I just find to be really compelling. Obviously, you have Harper. You just mentioned Harold's lead performance in this,
Mhm.
who's dealing with COVID anxiety, COVID stress, hasn't been back to the office since COVID, has been living in this hotel in London during this time, and the tension that causes with, was it Rashi is his name? The
Rishi, yes.
Rishi, and some of the other people on the floor. You have Yaz, played by Marisa Abella, who, first of all, like there are actresses sometimes, and actors too, who, like, when they're on screen you just feel like sexual tension constantly, and she's able to do that. It's just like
Yeah.
unbelievable how, like, no matter what's going on screen, she just is able to, like, deliver so much force through her nonverbal communication. It's unbelievable, and everything going on with her, she seems like a bit lost, a bit like kind of considering her next options, and also dealing with losing this big client, feeling
Yeah.
I think anger towards the way that she was treated versus how now the culture has shifted a bit towards some of the newer people and the roles
Right.
she was in, which I think is really fascinating to see that dynamic. And then you got uh Robert, right, who
Yeah.
is like, he last season was like the hot shot, like, up and comer, wanted to, like, take over the world, and now he's kind of on, like, desk, like, cold call duty. And uh seeing all these dynamics where all these characters are at, and also obviously all the stuff going on in his sex life, and
Yep.
it's just really interesting, really fascinating to see them all, and where they're at. And then we haven't even talked about Ken Leung, plays Eric in this, but
Oh gosh, yeah.
I think his performance, you can just kind of see like how he's been muzzled by a lot of the abuse he was giving out last season and the way that the companies responded to it. But his performance is just so convincing because you can tell that he's like still got that fire underneath him, still got that dog in him, so to speak. But he is just playing this like manager role now and taking
Mhm.
it so seriously and really like putting himself into this other aspect of his career. I just was really like immersed in this whole episode.
Totally. I think from a plot perspective, it's cool to see like the Pierpoint London office face this kind of existential challenge, existential threat, which is that this guy coming in from New York is going to be on the desk there and basically spying on them, determining what's going on. But also, there's just this threat that the London office could be like subsumed or become subservient to New York or even Frankfurt, they say post Brexit. That is a cool piece of ongoing tension. I like that the show is, I think, intelligently bringing in post COVID or, post outbreak uh, storyline to this
Mhm.
season. Harper had been working from home much longer than the rest of her colleagues and doing it at a hotel at that. And how that leads into everything, we'll see about that. Um, you mentioned Ken Lung. I think the Eric character is so central, I think, to bringing out the high stakes tension and stress that is investment banking and his dynamic with Harper, which is so up and down, uh, is really fascinating. I think it's just really
Yeah.
great chemistry between these two performances, and it's the best part about the show. You just love being with it. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, and you mentioned Yaz and Robert. It's cool to see like Harper. They're directly kind of continuing where they are with the storylines we saw last season. Even though it's been like a year's time in the show, we're starting to see issues with Yaz's personal life affecting her professional life, and
Mhm.
Robert's personal life is now being affected by his previous choices in terms of his party habits and stuff, right? And
Yep.
now we have this Jay Duplass character
Yeah.
coming in as this hotshot investor that is like untouchable to all the banks, and that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that dynamic plays out between Eric and Harper and Bloom, played by J. Duplass, like you mentioned. I think I think there's a real like fatherly aspect, as you could kind of see when Bloom, uh, you know, says to Robert when he's bringing Harper home after a night out, like, "Hey, I'm right here. Like, don't try anything. I'm listening through the wall to hear if anything goes on." And obviously, Eric and Harper already have that dynamic, so I think there's going to be the business side of things. Obviously, we see Harper choose not to pursue a business meeting that she has set up with Eric at the end of the episode in order to go listen to
Yes.
Bloom's talk and pursue whatever opportunities come there. But I'm really interested to see how that all plays out for sure. And you have Yaz with this opportunity of like investment or wealth management, I guess, is like the
Yeah.
opportunity. I was a little confused by exactly what that woman did, but
Right.
um, really interesting
So
stuff.
is Yaz for most of
Y-
the episode.
Yeah. But yeah, it feels like industry just hasn't missed a beat. It's one of those shows that I feel like will, if people haven't found it yet, people will continue to find, and as long as it just keeps going, man, I think by the end people are gonna
Totally.
call this one of the better HBO shows of recent memory.